Good to have you with me once again. Welcome.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good to be here. Good to see you. And today I just want to touch on little things that erode trust in marriage, right? That's the topic for today, little things that erode trust in marriage. So tell your friend, this is important, I think, for all of us to hear about. So most of the couples who come to see me for counseling, they have some type of trust issue that they're dealing with. And when I was saying, okay, Petreece, no, you're going to go. You're not going to not go because you're just feeling a little tired. We all feel tired and God gives his grace, right? Um, so I want to touch, I said, just touch on that. It's the last day in the month, right? So I want to encourage all our listeners, whether individuals, premarital, married couples, persons working with couples, to just please take note and be encouraged that if you could just work on one, two, or three of these areas, if you're listening and you find, okay, yes, this is a little thing that I've been doing a lot. Just work on it and it could make a lot of difference in your relationship. And we know that trust is at the heart of any relationship. So relationships can't work if we don't have trust, but we also know at the heart of marriage is trust. That's like a big deal. We all understand that we, our spouses, are not perfect and we will make mistakes. And just to be real, we probably will make mistakes until we go to be with Jesus, right? We will make mistakes. And we know this, we know this. But there are some things that we or our partners do over and over that can cause distrust and that will cause our relationship to erode. So while we know, every day we might do something a little off and, you say sorry and whatever, there are some things that we can be doing. This is not one-off. This is over and over that will erode trust. And sometimes we see these things as, just little things. So some people think, well, I never had an affair. I was never unfaithful. I'm always there. I come home every night. And, that these are the only things that can erode trust in marriage. But that is not so. That is not so. And so it's important to know that I may be faithful, I'm coming home every night, I'm working hard, and my spouse could still feel like there's a trust issue within this marriage. Now, the root word for trust means to be careless. We are careless, meaning without care. We are comfortable because we trust, right, our spouse, because we believe that your spouse has your best interests at heart, and that when he or she takes any kind of action, that they're thinking about the impact on you and on the relationship and on the family, right? You can trust that even though I am not perfect, and that you will, by God's power, but God's grace, with God's help, that you'll keep your word, your promises to do what is required of you to make your spouse feel loved and respected. And without trust, a marriage will feel empty and painful. And I think it's important to know it's not just about, we think about those big things, like this person was unfaithful. This is why we don't have trust, right? So before I go into the little things, I kind of want to share on the five, not kind of want to share, I am sharing on the 5 types of trust in marriage, and also just going to touch, as in list, what are the big things that erode trust before I go into those little things. Now, Evelyn and Paul Moschetta, experienced therapists and marriage counselors, says there are 5 powerful types of trust that every marriage needs. Strong, healthy marriages reveal 5 specific kinds of trust husbands and wives give to one another. So they suggest that you go over the following list and check with each kind of trust you do or don't bring into your marriage. Ask your spouse to do the same thing and share results. This is an excellent way to clarify where your trust is solid and where you need work. So they identified 5 types of trust that are necessary for all marriages to be healthy. And number 1, trust that you will both be sexually faithful. And most of us get this, right? Number 1, trust that you will both be sexually faithful. Without sexual fidelity, marriage becomes unworkable. Partners can recover from an affair, and many partners have, but a lot of times they need professional help to do this, if not most times or all times. Keep your commitment to remain sexually faithful. If you're unhappy with your marriage, get counseling, not a part-time lover. All right? Number 2, the second type of trust. Trust that you will not harm, reject, or control one another. Trust thrives in an atmosphere of safety and security. Hurting one another, either physically or verbally, and then rejecting one another creates fear, which undermines trust. With control comes mistrust. So make sure that your love is not filled with a lot of possessive clinging, which pushes your partner away. So they feel manipulated, controlled. The third type of trust that is necessary for all healthy marriages, trust that you would love one another without ulterior motives. You and your spouse need to feel sure that you are loved for yourself and not for some type of ulterior motive. That includes your looks, your money, your family, or where your spouse needs someone to feel superior to be a buffer against being alone or lonely. And the fourth type of trust that is necessary in all marriages is trust that you will not abandon one another in the face of anger, conflict, and disagreement. And we know that all marriages, there will be anger, there will be conflict, there will be disagreements. Anger, conflicts, disagreements are inevitable. Marriage, so you need to make your marriage a safe space for the careful expression of anger and for disagreements to happen without raising the fear of abandonment. So you get some disagreement or some anger, and the first thing you want to say is, let's separate, let's divorce. That creates trust issues. So there mustn't be a fear that if we get angry, if there's disagreement, if there's conflict, that you or your partner are going to say, let's separate. You go back wherever you come from. Go back by your mother, right? No, we're not doing that. And the final one, number 5, is to trust that you will make each other and your marriage a top priority. So after God is my spouse, partners trust that they mean it when they promise to love, to honor, and to cherish one another. Do not take each other for granted. Don't neglect your relationship or consistently give too much time and energy to other things and people. When you do these things, you break trust. Remember every day what is really important in your life. Keep your priorities clear. Make your spouse and your marriage a top priority. So those are the 5 types of trust. Just identify that all healthy marriages should have. So let me just say that again. Trust that you will both be sexually faithful. Trust that you will not harm, reject, or control one another. Trust that you would love one another without ulterior motives. Trust that you will not abandon one another in the face of anger, conflict, and disagreements, and trust that you will make each other and your marriage a top priority. Now, before I go into the little things that can become a big deal in eroding our marriage relationship, let me just share a list of big things that erode trust in a marriage. And this is just a list. I am not going to be delving into this at this point in time. Right? So I listed 8 of them. 1, you communicate poorly or not at all. Not communicating in a marriage is a big deal. It will erode trust. right? Or you communicate very poorly, like it's almost nothing, right? You let outsiders gain too much influence in your marriage. That is a big deal. You do not seek help for addictive behavior. Addictive behaviors can be very destructive to marriage, right? You withhold sex or physical affection from your partner. That is a big deal. You are not on the same page about money, finances, not being able to agree about what happens with our finances is a big deal, right? You let apathy creep in, right? Or you fall into a rut. You and your spouse neglect each other. No kind of quality time. You're not sharing interests here. Just a general, almost like two roommates living in the same house. This, right? That is a big deal. Number 7, you do not seek couples counseling when you need it. That is a big thing. And number 8, you engage in sexual or emotional infidelity. All these things are big deals, right? So what are the seemingly small things that we do over and over that erode trust to the point that sometimes even if we change, our partners are skeptical, right? And we will have to make some critical steps to rebuild that trust. So these are things that seem small. It's like my husband have this thing that he calls trust termites, and I would have shared it before, and of course, I'll share it again. And termite is tiny, but if you have enough of them, they could bring down your house, right? So they may look small and insignificant. That, yes. But if you do that little thing over and over, it will erode trust. And so here are 18 things that some may think are small, but they can erode the very heart of your marital trust. And we have to remember always that the little things that we do every day to communicate, I love you, I respect you, I honor you, you are priority to me, your needs, desires, feelings are important to me, I hear you. The little things we do to communicate these things are actually big things that keeps the marriage healthy. Now, as I said, I was really kind of tired this weekend. So I didn't make my own list. I did a little research. And so the information is coming from blackandmarriedwithkids.com, and an article by Danae Macklin, and bustle.com, an article by Caroline, and I hope I'm calling these people names right? Stuber. And of course, I add my $100. And I'm not adding 2 cents again because inflation is not 2 cents again, right? So of course, I added my own little thing there. So we're looking at 18 things that some may think are small, but can erode the very heart of your marital trust. So 1, you're always late. You are always late. Being a person your spouse can count on is an essential part of building trust. If you never show up when you say you will, or text when you say you will, you are sabotaging that trust. Being on time is challenging for some, because some of us have an unrealistic approach to time. That was something I had, and I had to work on it. And of course, you would see how I have to work on it in the type of job that I do, right? But so it's something you can work on. It's something we can work on. And it is a small way, which always ends up being a big way. It's a small way to let your spouse know that you are reliable. So if you're always being late, you are eroding trust. I can't rely on this person. You are judgmental. Number 2, second one that erodes trust, you are judgmental. If you are a judgmental spouse, you can be sabotaging the trust in your marriage. Judgmental spouses are not easy to confide in, especially when it comes to deep personal sharing. There could be things your spouse has never told you simply because they fear you judge them. And this morning, my husband shared something with me, and After you finish sharing, you say, girl, I just thank God I could just tell you anything, that I could always talk to you. And I really thank God for that. I mean, I really, really thank God for that. And I thank God that I think most people could share anything with me. I thank God for that, right? It's a blessing. And Christopher Lindsay says, a judgmental person is like a porcupine. Get too close and you could get hurt. Judgmental people have 3 common traits. They are overly critical. They show little or no respect for the person they criticize. And they justify what they say because they believe it is the truth. So the Bible tells us to speak the truth in love. Just because what you're saying is the truth doesn't mean it is the best thing to say or that you should say it. And if you have to say it, please speak the truth in love. Right? So if you're very judgmental, so everything somebody say, you're not trying to understand their perspective or how they could see it like that, or you could understand how this could happen. You could see that, wow, yes, that, I mean, something like that could even happen to me. You're judgy, right? Yes, you'll become somebody that it will be very difficult for your spouse, to share with. And people can become judgmental due to their pride, right? Their hurt and anger at being wronged, or just a lack of love, for others. And of course, 3 ways to overcome being judgmental: just some self-reflection, forgiveness, and seeing the whole person. And of course, I would always say, please, especially if you're a follower of Jesus, just be more like Jesus. Ask God to help you. Number 3, you do not express your feelings. So this is something else that erodes trust in marriage. If you do not express your feelings and go deep emotionally, you are creating an imbalance of trust. If your spouse trusts you with some really strong feelings and the most intimate details of their lives, they trust you. So they're sharing those things. They trust you. When you do not do the same, it becomes clear that you do not feel the same. And trust involves a give and take. Trust is about being mutual. We're both doing this. It may take you some time to learn to open up. So some people, it's more difficult, than others for them to open up and to share their feelings. So it may take you some time, but it is required work for both spouses. Trust is eroded when only one person is sharing deeply about their feelings, about their thoughts, about their dreams, right? So even though it's something might be difficult for you to do, it is required, and you need to learn to do it, and you need to be able to become vulnerable. Remember when we spoke about skills for healthy relationship, being vulnerable was one of them. Number 4, you don't listen. Your spouse is not going to trust you with their feelings if you do not listen. To be a trustworthy spouse is to be a person your spouse can confide in. That means you must learn to listen without interrupting, changing the subject, not hearing, or not giving your spouse words consideration. And sometimes it's very easy for us to shut down the conversation when our spouse is speaking. Those actions erode trust. Number 5, you hate on their friends and family. Oh my gosh, once they start talking about their friends and family, you roll in your eye, right? You cannot, and when I say their family, of course, I'm talking about their relatives, right? You cannot control who your spouse chooses to have in their life, and constant negativity will just cause stressful situations. Make your feelings clear. You can say how you feel, but do not entertain just hating on them, always saying negative things. Now, a side note, if their friends and or relatives are truly toxic or dangerous to your spouse and yourself, then it is time to take action to remove these individuals from your inner circle. And if as a spouse you realize and know that your relationships with your friends and or relatives is negatively impacting your marriage and your spouse, please do something productive to address this. But as a spouse, always just speak a negative about your spouse's relatives or friends that you don't like is not going to help. Number 6, you are shady. Being shady is such an annoying trait. But your spouse needs to be able to trust, right, with a reasonable amount of certainty that you will be where you say you will be and do what you say you will do, even if those things are seemingly unimportant to you. Even things like lying about the past, and then they realize, wait now, you're lying about this though? Why have to be so shady and secretive and, right? You start wondering, is this person generally always telling me the truth? So that is something that erodes trust. Number 7, you do not share your share. You do not do your share, especially of when it comes to things in the household, because there's a mutual thing. We all need to be helping out, right? Doing your share of housework may not seem like it impacts trust, but it is absolutely part of being reliable. If you are not holding up your end of your responsibility, your spouse could easily feel that they cannot trust you, So a lot of times as spouses, you have discussions about what we'll do. And I mean, this is up to a husband and wife, what they will do, who will do what. There's no rule about that, right? It's up to them. You're operating in areas of strengths. But if you're saying you will do and you're not doing, and then the other person really feels unsupported and overburdened when it comes to what they have to do around the home because you agreed to do certain things, those things erode trust. Number 8, you have a temper. If your spouse has a temper, they are breaking trust in the marriage. And we know this. Just think about anybody you know who has a temper. People do not like to tell things to those with a temper. They keep secrets and avoid doing things that might set off your temper. So if somebody knows you have a temper, believe you me, there are things that they would like to tell you that they are not telling you. Because, sometimes you're just telling yourself, I just can't deal with that, or just can't deal with that today. Or how do I tell, you're going through, I'm sure you all know 5 and 6 and 7 scenarios of how to say something without setting a person off. That erodes trust. There's a level of emotional and literal dishonesty that others have to maintain to keep themselves safe from spousal anger. And this is when I spoke about one of the big things. If you have, so I spoke about addictive behavior, but things like an anger problem, that is a big deal in a marriage that should be addressed, right? Number 9, you are super emotional. So, everything you say have some outburst of some kind of emotion, tears, something, right? Being super emotional is not necessarily a bad thing, right? But it is also not something a person could always control. But self-control is a big deal. Yeah, you can't always be crying for everything or upset for everything. This person is really emotional. They really touch you with their feelings. But unfortunately, the people who are married to super emotional spouses sometimes find it easier to keep things from them rather than make them upset. And this can have a negative impact on the trust in your marriage from both spouses' perspectives. So I've heard spouses who said, he doesn't talk to me. And then the spouse will say, yes, I want to talk to him, but I don't talk because of your reaction. you either get, you start to cry or you just get upset. So it's from both perspectives, it is having an impact. So sometimes we have to be able to ask God, because one of the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. We have to be able to ask God to help us to hear difficult things, to hear painful things, and to stay in the moment and truly be able to listen without, just getting really emotional about it, right? Number 10, you are sneaky. You leave without saying where you're going, right? Where you're going out, right? You sneak in really late in the night. I don't even know when you came home, right? You didn't even message. You whisper or leave the space when you have to talk on the phone. So the phone ring. All of us, we good here, and all of a sudden, voice going down, or you have to get up and take the call outside or in some other room. You do not like to talk about your day or what you did or where you were. Doing one or two or all of these things will erode trust over time, right? Now, doing one or two of these things do not necessarily mean that you are not trustworthy. But think about, you're putting all of them together and you're doing it over time. You look sneaky, and you look a little suspect. And it will erode trust, right? Every time the phone rings, you have to move. Really? Number 11, going days without hugging or kissing. Closeness and touching are as important as sex in a marriage. And when we think about the sex needs of a husband and the sex needs of a wife, this is something very important. And as we get older, it becomes even more important. When physical touching and closeness stops, so does that intimate connection, right? One feels rejected and unloved and starts to withdraw emotionally and physically, closing off parts of their heart to their spouse. So not touching your spouse often, that is one of the things that can erode trust in a marriage. Number 12, not being fully present when you are together. So not making eye contact when someone is with someone and giving them your full attention when they're trying to communicate with you creates an emotional gap in the relationship. And I have heard spouses talk about this. I am talking and the person is looking at the wall. I am talking and for nothing, they would look at me. These things cause trust issues in a marriage, right? They make your spouse feel like they are not important and they will pull away over time. And the person will say, yes, but I'm listening. Yes, but there's something about a person feeling like you're fully present, like you are attending, your eye contact, right? And this is why it's important sometimes to slow down and really be present with each other whenever possible. And this is why we tell couples to, have a date night, even if I can't do it every week. And a date night doesn't have to involve money, right? Or a lot of money. You sit down on your car trunk and you eat some ice cream and you just be present with each other and talk and share. It don't have to be some fancy anything, right? You make corn soup and put it in the car, or you make corn soup and go and walk and sit down somewhere and eat it together, right? So because sometimes you just need to slow down and to be present with each other. Number 13, turning everything into a competition. Keeping score in your relationship is never, never, never a good idea. It's never. Because there'll always be things one person is doing more than the other, right? When we start to count the number of arguments, disagreements, hurt feelings, who doing what, right? We start trying to win in our interactions. We erode our relationship. If you feel like your interactions with your partner are about staying on top of your game or making sure they do not win the conversation, your relationship is likely to disintegrate. Trust is eroded. Number 14, and this one is so easy, not appreciating each other. Once you have been together for a while, it can be tough to remember what brought you together in the first place. And it can even be easy to stop trying. And it can be even easier to stop trying and fall into an unhealthy pattern of neglect where we stop showing appreciation for who our partner is and the good that our spouses bring every day into the relationship and to you, right? It could even get so bad that we don't even show appreciation for the extra special efforts that your spouse will make from time to time. So not appreciating each other. And if you do that on a continual basis, you are eroding trust. Not sleeping in the same bed. No. Not sleeping in the same bed sometimes cannot be helped, especially if you have your work schedules, according to what your work schedules may be. There may be a health issue, or you need space to get a good night's rest. I've heard of the snoring persons, and sometimes I can't deal. They say snorers seem to always fall asleep before the people who don't snore. So the persons who don't snore have a hard time falling asleep listening to the snorer, right? So sometimes you just want a good night's rest and you say, okay, I'm sleeping in that other bed tonight, right? But if you are in the habit of going to bed at different times, or your spouse, you're not, somebody sleeping on the couch, or you're just not sleeping in the same bed, this habit may start to affect your intimacy levels, emotional, sexual, and spiritual intimacy. Not sleeping in the same bed as a normal pattern, as a married couple, that is not a good habit, right? And studies have actually shown that when spouses sleep together, their bodies realign with each other. There's a vulnerability in sleep. You literally could kill somebody in their sleep. Oh, gosh. Sorry. As long as evil are laughing at that. Oh, my goodness. Right? So each couple is also building more trust with each other when they sleep in the same bed. So while we know sometimes it just can't because somebody's sick or somebody just needs a good night's rest, and we don't always get a good night's rest because somebody's snoring or whatever it is, or somebody has to get up really early in the morning and the other person is very tired and we don't want to wake up the other person before we leave. Okay, but this must not be a pattern. It must not be a pattern. Number 16, forgetting to greet each other. Don't get up in the morning and not greet each other, or leave for work without saying a loving goodbye, or even when we just leave in each other's space, each other's company, a hug, a kiss, right? Greeting each other, say that you believe and know that your spouse is valuable and important, and you just appreciate that they're alive. You get up in the morning and you wonder, is anybody in this house happy to see me or glad that I'm alive? We don't want that, right? It says that I'm glad you're still in my life. So not doing this on a continual basis erodes trust. Number 17, eating separately. Yes, eating together is a big deal. No, sorry, these are little things, right? This may seem like a little thing, but it erodes trust over time. Eating together may be difficult for different reasons, especially how people may work and things like that. But we must find time as a couple, right? You must look at when can we eat together. So a whole week mustn't go and we never even ate one meal together. Right? So you must, as a couple, look at whether you are unable to eat together for valid reasons or you are choosing not to eat together. When we eat together, there's a vulnerability. it loosens you up. You feel relaxed and you share. It's a time to connect. Do not be married and not eat together. You know, even if it's just 3 times for the week, eat together, right? Eating together offers a moment to catch up, to connect, right? Which can lead to all important moments of communication, right? If you choose not to eat together regularly, this is not healthy for your marriage. So that might look like a little thing, but it is a big deal if we're always doing it. And this is even for families. Even as families, eating together, even if it's just 1 day for the week, is very important. And number 8, telling what we call little lies, and it'll be our name, white lies, right? One may think that telling what you call a little lie is not a big thing. They may excuse a little lie by saying it's not harming anyone, or I was too tired to get into the whole story, or I didn't want to hurt his or her feelings, or I really didn't remember, or if I told the truth, it would have started a whole other discussion. Whatever the reason, lying is wrong, and what it does to your spouse is have them wondering, what else are you lying about? And it really erodes trust. So so those are the 18 things. Let me see if I can find them and just give you those 18 again. So these little things that if we do them over and over and over, they will erode trust. So as I'm saying, if we could just work, if you're hearing 1 or 2 or 3 that you do, and we could just work on those things, it will be amazing the difference it would make in your marriage. And remember, God's grace, His divine empowerment. God is always there to help us to be better people. So 1, you're always late. 2, you are judgmental. 3, you do not express your feelings. 4, you don't listen. 5, you hate on their friends and relatives. 6, you are shady. 7, you do not do what you've agreed to, in terms of things in the home, like your share of responsibility. You have a temper. 8, you have a temper. 9, you are super emotional. 10, you are sneaky. 11, going days without hugging or kissing. Number 12, not being fully present when you are together. So not really, giving that eye contact and the person know I'm really here, I'm really listening. Number 13, turning everything into a competition. Number 14, not appreciating each other, not showing appreciation for what each other, does. Number 15, not sleeping in the same bed. Number 16, forgetting to greet each other. Number 17, eating separately. And number 19, telling what you may call little lies. These seemingly little things, if we do them often enough, can erode trust in your marriage. So as I said, even just to work, you're hearing me today and you're hearing, oh, I do that, I do this, I do. So look at you. I don't be looking at yourself. Look at you. Just working on those things can make a very, very big difference in your marriage.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Petreece. So
God
we're
bless.
Gonna connect another time. All right.
Yes.
So God bless you.
God
And
bless
until we
you
meet
too.
again. Thank you so
Okay.
very much.
Bye.